And seeing it at the Bird, I think is, I'm biased, but the energy that goes on at the Bluebird is just, it's different than other places. The way the room's laid out and the different directions you're seeing the band from and the height of the ceiling all kind of play into it, that it's really a very energetic exchange of music between the fan and the musician.
Burgers, tacos, pizza. Oh my! Season 7 of the No Dishes podcast is here. Once again, brought to you by Visit Bloomington. Check them out at visitbloomington.com. Especially if you live in Bloomington, you'll find out about all this cool stuff going on around town that you had no idea about. Also, please support our other advertisers on this episode. The best way to show us some love is to show them some love. You already know what I'm going to say. Play that theme song.
Hey, say, honey, let's go out to eat. Relieve our culinary duties. With all these restaurants to sweep us off our feet, they're bound to turn us into foodies. No dishes, no dishes, no dishes. We'll have a bottle of wine, relax and have a good time. No dishes, no dishes.
All right, one of the most legendary Bloomington institutions, a music venue that has such incredible rich history, is the Bluebird. We're very fortunate to have it here in Bloomington, and we're very fortunate to have their owner here with us today, Mr. Dave Kubiak. Hey. Kubi, how we doing, buddy?
I'm doing okay, Jordan. How you doing?
Doing fantastic. We got a midday Wednesday recording, which is fun. It's a little. I have more energy because normally we record Tuesday evenings.
Gotcha.
I kind of like this because normally I have to go home and take a nap to make sure I'm not too tired. Right. This is great. So you might be starting a trend.
Well, that's what you get when you had weird schedules. You can't always do the nighttime.
Yeah, but hey, I appreciate you making it work and finding the time to come talk to us. So tell us a little bit about how you came on board to own such a legendary music venue.
Wow. Well, back in the 90s, I started out at the Peanut Barrel, which is probably before your time.
A little bit, yeah.
So that was where the Cade is now. Where underneath the video saloon. And so we did music there in the 90s and this whole thing was happening. It was like a little hangout bar. Think of the alley bar a little bit big, twice the size of the alley bar.
And that was the kind of
music.
Yeah.
But we started doing music there during it was during the 90s when acoustic music was happening. MTV Unplugged was the thing, And so I started doing acoustic music there and it was like the right thing at the right time. And so that really became really popular. And I went over to the Bluebird, I don't know, late 90s, somewhere mid 90s. And that'll date myself a bit. But, and then started doing the booking at the Bluebird and managed the Bluebird. And it's just the natural progression of, how an employee does something more. And I became manager of the Bluebird in the late 90s and bought out Steve Ross, the owner, in 2004.
Okay, so you've got 20 years now of owning the Bluebird.
20 years, yeah.
Yeah, it's been everything you dreamed of being more.
Oh, it's been wonderful. It's been a great, wonderful experience. But it's just you never know what it's like until you're sitting in those shoes, and when you're actually doing it, you think, oh man, it'd be easy to own a restaurant, own a bar, or something.
Oh, of course.
It's just the whole experience.
Yeah. Oh, it prints money. Look how busy they are. Yeah.
Everybody's there when it's busy, and nobody's there when it's slow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm sure the overhead's got to be quite.
Yeah, it was just something you had to get used to.
So how do you go about booking out a calendar year, figuring out, who are the up and coming acts and who are the tried and true, mix your traveling touring bands with your local bands?
Well, it's a mixture and it changes from time, over time periods. And so you just try to catch certain things that are hot at certain times. So the Bluebird will totally morph into different things over different time frames. And so you just got to be flexible to be able to do that. So you want to have a mix of local college type bands, kids that are potentially on campus at IU, and then the touring bands. The genres just may change with time. This certain genre is popular now. There was times when reggae was popular, to rock, to hip hop, to the country movement that's happening now. Everything changes over time.
Yeah, so that's what you would say is the most popular now is country.
Yeah, country and the Americana type country too, which is, I guess, like the Zach Bryans of the world.
Of course, yeah, a little lighter, more light rock in a way.
Yeah, it's almost like what Mellencamp almost, brought to the table back in the 80s. I don't know that people knew exactly what that was, that Americana with hints of country, hints of different sort of things. But that was like kind of a unique genre that I don't know that people knew how to categorize it.
Until, now more recently.
But now, and then a lot more people are emulating that style.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've never thought about Mellencamp paving the way for Zach Bryan. You know what I mean? But
right,
it's like,
but the songwriter with different elements to it. Yeah, it's a really unique take on music that a lot of people are trying to emulate now. So it's kind of cool.
Speaking of Mellencamp, didn't he recently kind of go up and just surprise people?
He did. I was out of town. I missed it. But he came in. But it's cool that he's. I don't know that his son now is, his drinking age and can hang out in Bloomington. So he came in with this kid and played Small Town.
Wow. Okay.
So cool.
Yeah, I remember seeing I think it was Julia or someone working to post it on their story. I was like, oh, what? Like just a random, because he's known as kind of being like a recluse. I mean, he'll be out, like go to Yonkos, but he's not someone that's super social and like, hey.
We're just happy he did it. I think that's great.
Yeah.
And
I was not expecting it. So that's super cool to see.
Yeah.
What, over the years, I'm sure there's so many you could talk about. The amount of acts that have played at the Bluebird before they blew up is insane. I mean, I know Tyler Childers, you guys got him right when he was blown up, and I heard that might have been the quickest you sold out a show ever.
It was really quick. So acts like that, and like Tyler, we were working on Tyler for maybe a year and a half, trying to figure out the time, and because it was slowly progressing up, and the timing of it was just great because it was right on the cusp of just really taking off. Yeah. So sometimes you're just lucky on the timing of that, that it's able to do great business and still. And then he turns on into a superstar.
Yeah. Next thing you know, he's doing, Deer Creek.
Right. But there's other people that, they're turned out to be stars, but they weren't stars at all at the time. John Mayer, I think, did, 200 people at the Bluebird.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. And then, didn't Mac Miller play there early on?
Mac Miller played too, to a modest crowd.
It's so wild to think about, just the names that have been through the Bird. Yeah. You can walk around and see it on the walls.
Right.
What are some of the names? So when did the Bluebird open?
73.
So what are some of those early bands that came through 70s and the 80s that might be the most notable?
Oh, well, once again, things morphed over time. So in the 70s, touring jazz stuff was popular. And,
nice.
Then, in the 80s, it was bluegrass rocks. Bill Monroe played in the early 80s, and like Dizzy Gillespie for the jazz stuff, and Sun Ra and all these guys back in the late 70s. Predates me, but it just all kind of morphed over time. And so one time I was talking to the guy that used to book the Bluebird back in the 70s. And we're just kind of talking about things we passed on that we thought, oh, this isn't going to work. And he made reference to the time he got a phone call. He said, oh, there's a comedian coming through. He's got an arrow through his head and he plays a banjo doing a stand-up comedy routine and playing music, and it was Steve Martin doing his club tour.
Oh, wow.
And he didn't think it would work. And now we passed. So it's like, and there's things like that. You think, Kid Rock played the Bluebird, opened up for a band called Homunculus.
Really?
And he wanted to come back, and I can't remember what he wanted. It was like $500, and I was like, I don't think it's worth it. So you just don't know.
Even to this day, you still probably don't think.
No, man. But it was just funny at the time. You see bands and you don't. Sometimes you see it, and sometimes you don't. Of like where this thing's heading.
So for him passing on Steve Martin, would you say that's like the Kid Rock was or do you have another instance where you're like, oh man,
well, Kid Rock played once and then he wanted to come back. That's even funnier. I'm sure there was plenty that we passed on that you're just kicking yourself in the butt, or thinking of the time wasn't right. The Black Keys were coming through in the whenever that time frame was, and they were going to play Indy the next night, and I thought, it was too risky to do back to back with Indianapolis, and so we thought, well, we'll just wait, and then just.
Next thing you know, they're too big to ever come back to the Bluebird.
Yeah. So those things happen.
That's got to be so much fun. Do you ever take really how do you gauge outside input? Do you have people emailing you like, "Hey, I'd love to see so and so," or is it just you have you and your own team?
Well, it's just any any way you can figure it out. So a lot of times you're talking to maybe clubs that are similar in size, that maybe are a different part of the country, and you have relationships with them, and they'll kind of say, hey, this is happening here. And so you'll pick up nuggets from that. But a lot of times too, with like staff guys, I'll just have a little dry erase board in my office, and hey, if you're listening to something new, just put it up on the board. So I get a gauge of what a college age person is listening to. That's brand new.
And you've got a long-standing, amazing staff there that
helps a lot. Yeah.
Very eclectic music taste that loves going to see bands on tour. So I'm sure that helps.
That helps a lot.
People like
and
Wesson and Hayden and Barrett all just like chiming in with who's new and hip.
And they know that the door's open. Or you can always, and I like to hear from the young staff people too that are brand new to it. Hey, they're listening to this or listening to that. And a lot of times you get great ideas from that.
Yeah, it's like you and I might listen to a lot of great music, but we're never going to know what the 21-year-olds are listening to.
And it happens so quickly. The popularity of stuff happens so quickly. It's like, how can you keep up?
I'm so lucky to where just DJing the college from brothers and doing bingo that I want requests, because then that's how I know what they're listening to. And the next time I play a show, they're like, how does this old guy know this song? It's like, well, one of you guys requested it last time, but you don't know that. It just looks like I know what's in.
Right. Yeah. So you don't want to, sometimes you get too into it and you're like, you think something's really cool and the general population doesn't get it yet.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily has to be my taste, but you're trying to gauge other people's taste, which is difficult sometimes.
How much are you paying for your restaurant's business insurance? What's affordable for your needs? What does your agent do for you that isn't just policy writing? Tony Brown with First Insurance Group has a keen eye for the policies all restaurant owners and operators would love to have. Tony provides risk management and other HR resources free of charge as your agent. Tony has no waiting period for loss of business coverage starting from day one, minute one, unlike other carriers' 72-hour waiting period. Tony has no audit for liquor liability and general liability, saving you time so you can focus on running your restaurant. And Tony's insurance carrier is the preferred vendor of choice for the Indiana Restaurant and Lodging Association. Call or text Tony Brown with First Insurance Group today, 812-327-2321. Set up a free review of your current policy and see how Tony can help you protect your largest investment, your business. 812-327-2321. So I know one of the things that's always interesting, at least for me, and people talk about is riders, or what bands kind of require to come on board, or what they want in the green room. One of my favorite shows I ever saw at the Bluebird was Ying Yang Twins, and I heard they rode up with their DJ in their Jeep all the way from Atlanta and just parked their Jeep out front, and they just said, "Hey, we want a bunch of wings." And one of Calvin or someone ran up to Scotty's, I think at the time, and got them 50 wings.
That's true. That did happen.
Have you had an eclectic mix of asks over the years?
Yeah, I mean, it's when you're playing a club, you don't the ask usually isn't unreasonable. Generally speaking, if it is, you're just like, hey man, you're playing the Bluebird. This is what it is, And so you kind of just draw the line. You can tell when somebody's giving you a line or not. And so, but yeah, Ying Yang Twins, that was funny. Sometimes it's just like weird stuff like that of,
hey, can you guys go run and grab us 50 wings? And, and we want that in a bottle of Patron and we'll be happy.
Yeah. And you think, how did they live doing, seems like doesn't seem like a very healthy lifestyle.
Hey, more power to it. That was an electric show. I think it was the best $10 I ever spent.
Right. Yeah. It was great, man. It was, when we did that, it was something too that at the time you thought the college kids just related to it. They weren't as relevant certainly at the time, but it was kind of a retro cool thing. Yeah. And it just resonated right at the right time.
Oh, I mean, Ying Yang's just one of my, they've got songs where it's just like, and even maybe it doesn't hit with the college crowd, or if I do the Root Cellar, they're not super enthused about it. Right. But for me, I'm just like, this song goes as hard as anything ever has, It's like so much fun.
And they don't travel together. That was the other weird thing about it. It's like,
really?
Yeah. So I don't know if they don't get along or what, but one of them, and I thought there's two guys, and I thought, well, that's the Ying Yang Twins, and then the other one showed up later. I'm like, who are those guys? It was just here. I don't know.
It's a trio now.
Yeah, there's only two, but I don't know if the other one was his buddy. I can't.
Okay, I think maybe one was the DJ or something, or maybe. I don't know. That's what I heard.
Yeah.
I just remembered there was a Jeep out front And whoever was working was like, dude, that they just rolled up in that. They just drove from Atlanta in that. Because they're so used to seeing these big tour buses out front. It was just so hilarious to see in early 2000s that they were one of the biggest acts in the world for a number of years. To now they're just like, we just roll up in our Jeep and we do our show and have a great time.
And just roll home.
It reminds me too of another great show I saw. It was Ja Rule, and it was just like electric. And that was even before I quit drinking, but I just gotten off work, so I didn't even have time to get drunk. And I just went right in right as he started. And I had the best time. It was just like he's got all these early 2000s hits.
Man, we had a great run of a lot of hip hop at that time. It was great. And all the Wu-Tang guys and Method Man, Redman, and Ghostface, all those guys came through. It was just really a great time for hip hop.
Maybe time for another resurgence. I don't know.
Maybe, I don't know.
I'm here to back it.
I always say, hey, if you're into that music, if we do one, show up. Because that's your biggest way to get another one is to show up to whatever one we're doing, and then we'll do another one.
Oh yeah. No, you're not going to keep doing it if you have 50 people.
Yeah, that's how you gauge how it resonates. That whatever that genre is working, then all right, we'll do more.
What's the capacity at the Bird?
Oh, we don't like to say that. Edit that out.
I was just curious, like generally, okay. What's a successful show?
Anything over 500 is successful. Usually, it's relevant, man. It's if it's summertime, it's the expectation's different than the school year.
Correct.
If it's Tuesday, the expectation's different than a Saturday.
Or if it's a Wednesday night, and it's Jukebox Luke versus a touring band.
Right, and it's all relative to what the calendar year is too. That winter dates play better than summer dates, or cold plays better than warm. So when you're booking these national touring bands, so I've had the smallest experience of booking by just booking local bands for Food Truck Friday. Super easy. We don't even do a contract. It's the simplest form of booking you can imagine. But we had Madison House reach out with, hey, we got this traveling bluegrass trio, and they sent over like, we want each a bottle of this. We want vegan offerings of all. And I'm just like, whoa, like you might even be like, hey, you're playing the Bluebird. I'm like, you're playing a food truck festival. Like we're not even a venue really. Right.
And so that was weird for me. And they're just like, they kind of said some things like, hey, if you're going to book a touring band, you should do this or this. I was like, I have no idea. Like you guys reached out to us or like your booker did. And I was like, we're just trying to figure it out.
I don't even read it a lot of times, to be honest with you. And so it depends on how many tickets you sold too. Everybody's treated differently. I mean, if you're going to sell the place out and you need a good bottle of red wine, hey, you're going to get it.
Sure.
And if you've sold 100 tickets, you might be getting something else.
How, one of and I don't know if anyone else cares about this but me, but I always find it fascinating how you go about consistently working with the city, be like, hey, I need these spots for a tour bus. Is that,
you got to pay them.
I was going to say, is that just an ongoing thing of constantly keeping them up to date on when you need those?
You know what? The ladies that work at the parking are great. Like the office ladies that are back there. There's a few of them that have been there for a long time. And let's say I totally spaced it and the band's coming this morning or whatever. Every scenario's happened. Or you're on vacation and you can't fill out the form on your phone or whatever.
Right.
Now you have to fill out the form. And so, they're great of like, just call them and say, hey, I need parking whenever it is.
Like Michelle and Ryan or...
Well, even the Ryan's been there. She's been great for a long time. But even some of the ladies under there that are really the ones that are doing the
boots on the ground
sort of thing. And so when they're over at Showers Plaza, I'd bring them a Christmas present sometime. I would like, because they've gotten me out of so many weird, because there's so many weird things that happen. There's so many moving parts going all the time that I've forgotten something often. And you're like, hey, I need a salad from parking to get these spots.
You read my mind. I was going to ask, like, do you get them a present at Christmas for
I have. Yeah, I've got
All right, y'all, real talk. If you're looking for a job that actually means something, listen up. Stone Bell Arc is hiring, and this isn't just some clock in, clock out gig. This is your chance to make a real impact supporting people with disabilities to live their best lives. Here's the deal. They've got flexible positions and solid benefits, and the work is honestly rewarding as heck. Plus, you'll be part of one of the coolest teams in Bloomington. So if you're ready to do some good while getting paid, head to stonebelt.org/careers and check it out. Don't wait. Your next great opportunity is at Stone Belt. Hey, it's good. It's like if you're gonna be like, hey, every now and then I'm in a pinch.
But they're great. They're just, I can't speak highly enough of them. And so some of them move on, and so somebody new will come in like, hey, this is how this is how it works.
Yeah. Like, hey, we've been doing this for a while. Like, I'm trying to just I'm trying to have a business that's good for Bloomington. It affects restaurants. People are going to get dinner before. It's not just Bluebird profiting off of big bands coming through.
Right.
Like, this is good for everybody.
It's not everybody understands that, but it is. It kind of generates the whole little neighborhood.
Yeah, well, and just to have the quality of national touring bands that you guys get. I mean, obviously the auditorium gets good acts, and there's other venues, but the Bluebird consistently, like, that's one of the reasons that I like living in Bloomington.
Right.
Is I know there's high quality musicians and bands coming through, and I don't always have to go to Indy.
Right. And seeing it at the Bird, I think is, I'm biased, but the energy that goes on at the Bluebird is just, it's different than other places.
Yeah. It's not
just the way the room's laid out and the different directions you're seeing the band from and the height of the ceiling all kind of play into it, that it's really a very energetic exchange of music between the fan and the musician.
Yeah. I mean, it's so much more intimate than if you're in a large high.
I have a hard time going to big arena shows because of that. You're just used to seeing it in the intensity and
absolutely
how the band performs at that level.
Yeah, I saw Lawrence there, and they crushed. It was so cool because I just learned about them because during the pandemic, Main Squeeze did they were part of a video that was like all these other people zoomed in. I forget what it was, but one of them I was like, oh, their vocals are great, and it was Lawrence.
Right.
And so I learned about them through Main Squeeze, and then I was like, these guys are great. And then you guys ended up booking them. And it was such a great show. I mean, they've got horns and brass and all this going on. And you're right there. I mean, I also was like right when they're coming out. So I feel like I almost want to give the high fives to the team coming through.
Yeah. We try to make sure that doesn't happen.
No, exactly. Yeah. Well, I was going to say, this is leading into my next question, I was kind of problematic because I got pretty drunk that night. And I was like, helping them load their trailer. Don't know why, but in my mind, I'm like, oh, they'll like, let me just help. And you can tell they're looking around like, who is this guy? And so that's when I look back, I'm like, ugh. So have you had many instances of people coming to the side of the building or?
Well, it happens, but you're very conscious of it because, for instance, all the band gear, you don't want, some guy that you think is helping that just runs away with their guitar.
That has other motives than just being like, oh, I'm drunk and helpful.
So you're trying to, without upsetting people, you're trying to get people out. When the big show's over and we have a lot of stuff to load out, we're, turning the lights on and just, you paid to go and see the show. We don't want to say, hey, get out of here, but more of the mentality of we're trying to have a natural progression of getting people up to the front. And if you want to stay and have a beer or buy a t-shirt, you can still do that. But then we're going to, start to take apart this show and get them to the next town.
But I mean, have you had many instances of people, camping out on the side of the building, hoping they come out
to see the band
or stuff like that?
Yeah. Or to see but we're, depending on once again, how big the act is, then we'll tighten up
security
or how we're going to bring the act in or how we're going to get them in or out of the building. We'll do that. It was funny, Tyler Childers, for instance, because they were all hanging out in front of the Bluebird, trying to get a, picture with Tyler.
Yeah.
So, and I kind of snuck him around the back and through the barber shop,
Oh, nice.
And so it was really funny because his door was parked right across the street from it. There's, I don't even know, hundreds of people, waiting for him to come up the alley and stuff. And Tyler just said, hey man, I'll see you later. And he just walked up across from the barbershop across the street to the bus and nobody saw him.
Huh.
It was great.
He was just so casual about it.
He was just very casual about it and just like, hey man.
Thanks, buddy. That's so great. Yeah, it's just like interesting because when I hear, some acts come through, whether it's comedians, a comedy addict, and sometimes you'll just see them walking around town and they don't care. They're like
during the day, they're normal people. They're just trying to, live their life. Yeah,
exactly. Well, and like you're part of one of the benefits of touring, I'd imagine, is getting to see a lot of cool cities and towns.
Right.
So it's like they want to go see what Bloomington's about and what it has going on.
Right. A lot of, especially the repeat acts that come through, they'll have certain restaurants that they like to go to or coffee shops. And they want to see the town. And some of them are might exercise and ride their bikes down the trails and stuff. We get all sorts of stuff. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. So of all the promotions you guys do, you have, obviously you just have big bands coming through whatever nights, but you always have Wednesday night. Wednesday night used to be nickel beer night.
It's $1 now.
Now it's $1 beer night. But that's fine. It's still a deal. Yeah. Is that consistently one of the busiest nights of the week?
It fluctuates. And sometimes it is. Yeah. It'll resonate some years with college students, and sometimes it doesn't as much for whatever reason. So, but the idea of it too is, to promote the young college bands that are going to move to weekends, or maybe they're already playing weekends and we want to expose them to more college kids to either establish their fan base or to start their fan base. But usually if you're playing Wednesdays, then I think you have enough talent or have what it takes to play a weekend.
What's the process for, a young college band that's like, hey, we want to play the Bluebird? Do they hunt you down?
Yeah, or they'll, I like the ones that are ambitious. They'll actually come in the office. Then you think, it's just like a job interview almost.
Right, yeah.
But if they go to school at IU, I think that usually I like to try to give those people a chance no matter what. And you can open up for so-and-so on a Thursday night or whenever. But then, all right, you have an opportunity. Can you call your buddies and have them come see you play, and how much have you practiced and all sorts of stuff? And you can tell those things within the first couple songs of how it's going.
Yeah, how tight it is and how many people came out to see them.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's kind of, you move them on up. It's like, okay, you're an IU student. We want Wednesday nights especially to be IU kids playing for IU kids. Yeah. And then you kind of give them their trial run and they can graduate from there.
Yeah, basically. I mean, it's not a set scenario.
Yeah, but
that's the gist of it. And then, but it's really fun to watch bands develop over time. From the first time they came in the office and said, "Hey, we have a band together." I look at 6 Foot Blonde as a great example of that, of guys that just had an idea. They were good musicians, but they were just kind of forming this band over the summertime. Had a gig, it brought out a couple hundred people. So I was like, hey, they're serious about it. So we did it again. But you could tell that the band was evolving each show, of like, they're really practicing, they're really taking this seriously. And then you could see them grow as a band. And then you could see the fan base grow from month to month. And it's really an exciting process. It's kind of like being an athletic coach or something.
Yeah,
you're watching
absolutely.
A player develop, you're watching a band develop.
Yeah, that's so cool. I don't think about that too much from like your position. I had the opportunity to start the bowling team at my high school and was a senior, but I was like a student and coach. Mm-hmm. Then my first year out of high school, I coached it. But yeah, just watching the kids actually like really get into it and watch their progression over a season was one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. Oh
man, yeah, and to watch, and you can just see them in the bands that really are practicing and learning new songs or writing new songs, and you see that thing really start to blossom, and that's really a great experience.
Yeah, well, and just to see them get, they brought out a couple hundred people the first show. Those are probably all people they know. But now they're getting fans of random strangers that are like, oh yeah, I'm a 6 foot
we call
blonde
it,
fan.
Going from friends to fans. If you can take that progression, because your friends will come for a couple shows, but they're not coming all the time, man. Yeah. And so then once they become fans, that's a whole different thing. And
absolutely. It's I think about some of the bands that have come through Bloomington, Disco and Duran Jones and Main Squeeze. Do you have some favorites that have kind of started in Bloomington that have gone on to do much bigger things?
All those are great examples. You kind of have that same feeling about all of them. You all want success, and you want to see them prosper. And it's the same way with sometimes employees that want to get into the music business, that you start to see them. Maybe they did the Bluebird social media page in college or something, and they graduate and they turn on to be a booking agent, or they turn to be a manager or work for a record company or something. But you see that too. And that's also really rewarding, to see this kid that was in college, had no idea what he was doing, liked music, and then go on to be make a career out of it.
Yeah, that you could be that stepping stone.
Yeah, you just kind of, it's them doing it, but you're giving them an avenue to reach that next step.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I always try to keep that in mind at the Chocolate Moose. Like, none of these students are going to have a career at the Chocolate Moose.
Right, but they may have a career somewhere else, and you're teaching them the principles of like, this is
exactly. It's a stepping stone. So what can we do to help them go achieve more than probably what I'll ever achieve? You know what I mean?
Right.
You have so many smart individuals come through.
So it makes Bloomington
and they're just
great.
young. Yeah. There's no place like home for the holidays. Don't miss Constellation Stage and Screen's family holiday musical, The Wizard of Oz, on stage December 12th through 29th at the Buskirk Chumley Theater. Travel down the yellow brick road with Dorothy and Toto in a whimsical journey filled with iconic songs and dazzling choreography. An absolute delight for audiences of all ages, The Wizard of Oz invites you to discover the magical power of home. See The Wizard of Oz on stage this holiday season, December 12th through 29th in downtown Bloomington. Find tickets at cconstellation.org. I remember fondly going to the Battle of the Bands back in the day with my buddies in the New Old Cavalry, and they won one year, got to go play summer camp. Is that something you guys still do? Do you still put on Battle of the Bands?
Well, there's two different ones. There's the one you're talking about is the one that went to summer camp. So the summer camp guys kind of put that on, where they would go to surrounding cities and they would try to find jam bands. They would pick, 4 or 5 bands from each town. And then they would have a battle of the bands on a Thursday night or something. And then the winner would go and get a slot at summer camp. Then there was another one that usually was like really indie rock sort of thing where we gave out prizes. And there was different guys that would kind of put that together. And it was really labor intensive. I just if you want to do it, knock yourself out. And so those had varying degrees of success. The secondary ones.
Okay, so but Bluebird's not actively like we're putting on our own Battle of the Bands.
Oh, it's tough.
Yeah,
it's just really labor intensive. So usually, if somebody from the outside that really is ambitious about trying to, to do it, hey, I'm not opposed to it. It's just for me to do it, it's really, really labor intensive.
Yeah, no, it makes sense, especially if you've got a rhythm and you've got
I got a couple little kids at home. I got all sorts of stuff. Yeah. I got plates full.
I'm sure. Well, do you have anyone that helps you with the booking? I know kind of Hayden helps with ordering and stuff like that.
The relationship between me and Hayden are great because we kind of just split responsibilities.
That's great.
I just like the staffing. I just hey, he handles really half of the things, and the ordering and the inventory and all that stuff, and then I'll handle entertainment wise and just kind of separate it out. But as far as the booking stuff, if somebody has an idea, we'll do it. And sometimes, Dan Coleman from the Bishop will do a show at the Bird every now and then. Or if somebody that I know wants to do a show, all right, you can do it. But mostly it's just ideas coming to me and then I'll make the show happen.
Right. Yeah. And that's keeping you busy.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, then as you're putting on an event that just because the show's confirmed, that there's a whole other list of stuff that happens between that and show day.
Yeah, just to make it all happen.
People got to show up.
Yeah. Have you had a big no-show that's happened to you before and you were...
I don't know that.
Oh, so you're like, dude, shut up.
Yeah. It's funny because you mentioned the Ying Yang Twins. That was the most fearful I've had of are those guys actually coming? Because I think it just went silent for a few hours that day. I'm like, hey, what time are you coming? And
no, you're like, oh shit.
No response. And usually something will happen during the day of somebody's coming to set something up during the day. And I think with those guys, it might have been 7:00 at night and hadn't seen them yet.
Yeah.
So that was
starting to stress a little bit.
Yeah.
That's so funny. But that's good. At least you haven't had any major ones. Have you had a personal favorite of your top 2 or 3 shows that you've watched and been able to enjoy at the Bluebird?
Oh, there's been a bunch of just...
I know that's probably like your favorite kid or something.
Yeah, and it changes through time. The first time that the Dave Rawlings machine came through, and Dave plays with Gillian Welsh. We just did a show with Dave and Gil in early September. But he had put out his first record, and not a lot of people... I think knew the name. He hadn't really toured as him as the headliner. And he brought Old Crow Medicine Show as his band and had Gillian Welsh in it and just blew the roof off the Bluebird.
Wow.
It was like the people that are there. It wasn't sold out, but it was a full crowd and we're just in shock of how good it was. And so that's still maybe because you're surprised that he was going to bring all these guys. You didn't know what to expect and just walking away just floored by how good that was.
Like what the hell just happened?
Exactly. Yeah. So I still, and it's probably been 8-10 years since that. And I still talk about it.
Yeah, still coming up.
Yeah.
What about shows you're looking forward to that you guys have coming up that maybe people don't know about? You're like, hey, you need to listen to these people.
Oh, I mean, Shaky Graves is coming in December.
Oh, really? Nice.
So that's
I didn't
a big
see that.
deal. Yeah.
I love Shaky Graves.
Yeah.
He's fantastic. He's
so his first time at the Bird too, so that should be good.
Yeah, I'll be there. There, Garrett's pulling it up. Yeah, he's one where what is it? It's like audio tree. Or he's got this live studio set on YouTube that I listen to.
Oh, does he? I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I have my artists that I listen to on Spotify and when I'm driving, and I have my artists that I listen to on YouTube when I'm working. Okay. And Shaky, I don't know why. Well, it's because my work computer used to not handle Spotify, the app, like it would freeze it up.
Yeah.
So I just got in the habit of my music at work always being on YouTube. And then that just kind of opens up all these live sets and stuff that's not on Spotify.
Yeah.
So it's fun. Shaky Graves is one of.
But that's a good example.
Oh, nice.
Of somebody,
Thursday night, December 5th. Cool.
There you go, right on your screen there. And that's another show I've been talking about Shaky for years and just, holding dates and didn't happen or just, it just takes a while for those things to happen.
Yeah.
I think another good memorable show at the Bird was when Ween did their show. I don't know if was that before your time?
No, I am not a Ween fan, but I've heard a lot about Ween.
Yeah, so that show was supposed to play up at the old Jake's, and I was a partner up at Jake's at the time, and then Ween, just the tour, just they had to cancel the tour. Some guys were having problems, and so they had to take years off, and they said, "Hey, we're going to make the show up to you." And I thought, that'd be great if that happened. At the time, I was out of the Jake's thing, and I remember they were headlining. They were the Saturday night headliner at Lollapalooza in Chicago, and I thought, there's no way these guys are coming to play. Yeah. And sure enough, they came back and played the date. That was another one that sold out in just seconds. It was before everybody bought their tickets online. So we used to sell them at Trax on Kirkwood.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And Hayden used to manage Trax at the time. So
okay.
And it was like we put them on sale there at like 9 a.m. or something. But I went down there to give Hayden the tickets at like, I don't know, 8:30 or something. And there were hundreds of people lined up on
ready to go.
To get
so they played
tickets.
The Saturday night headlining Lollapalooza. And they came down after that?
Yeah.
It was that night?
No.
Oh,
no. It was like a year or two later.
Oh, okay. But you're like, okay, they're so big, they're never coming.
Right. Yeah. But they promised the date, and they kept the promise and came back and did.
Wow.
It was really a big deal.
So speaking of, like you said, Shaky Graves, Tyler Childers took a while. It was a process. Do you have anyone that you've been working on that you haven't been able to get locked in yet that you really are hoping to soon?
That's good questions, because some of them they get out of, they just get out of your range.
Yeah, they get too big.
Yeah. And so you're trying to get the timing right on it, and then.
So you had Chapel Roan booked, and then just next thing you know, just too big.
It just goes away. Yeah, there's stuff that it goes away. And then the other bummer was like COVID, of like when dates that were supposed to play over COVID and never played.
And then they ended up getting too big, and you're like, well, they're never coming back.
Right.
That's tough.
Yeah.
At that point, you're like, maybe they'll have a fall from grace at some point.
You don't want that. But yeah. But then it's not the same as, getting them on their way up.
Right.
Last year Red Clay Strays, when they played, oh man, that was a big deal too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They're definitely trending. What's their main? I can't even think of their main song, but they're fantastic. So when you see people like lining up early, is that because they just want to get in close to the stage? Because at that point, the tickets have already been purchased.
Yeah, they're trying to get close to the stage.
Okay, because I'll consistently see, there's a giant line, and it'll be an artist like I've never heard of them. Again, you're not gonna know everybody.
Right.
And I'll just but it's usually maybe someone that's a little more country than I'm. Like I like my Childers and my Sturgill, but you get a little too.
A lot of it's it happens quickly. I mean, if you asked me 6 months ago, maybe I hadn't heard of them. And, and then people are they're traveling from a distance and they're lining up to see it. But that's quite a thing for me to pull up. Usually I'll grab dinner or something, and I'll come down to the club at maybe the time the doors are open, and the line is down to 6th Street. And you're like, oh wow.
Yeah.
That's something.
Yeah, that's nuts, man. That's it's cool that you get to have that opportunity to bring people together like that.
Yeah. And then you have a little anxiety when that happens, like, oh man, I hope everything goes right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, your initial is like, oh, this is cool, and then you're like, oh shit. Did I forget this? Did I forget that?
Oh yeah, or you're just there's a lot of people. There's the performers. There's just a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
And then when the show's over and it goes off well, you're like, that's a nice relief, and you feel good afterwards.
So can you tell from like ticket sales, like from credent card zip codes or whatever?
Where they're coming, I don't track it as much. Yeah, you can tell from that of how far they're traveling. But just sometimes when you book the act, you kind of get a feel of, what other, they're certainly not playing Indianapolis on the show. So you typically were the only Indiana show.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. And so maybe they're playing Louisville would be the next closest thing. But then you're counting on them coming from, that region of, Terre Haute, Indianapolis, whatever.
So you'll still try to stay away from someone playing Indy one night and
right. We make it a stipulation. We won't do it.
Really? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's smart.
Yeah.
Got to cover your ass.
Right. Because Indianapolis is so big but we want, in the big shows, we're counting on a certain amount of people to come from Indianapolis. And now that I-69 is done, I think it's easier.
Oh, it's so much easier.
Yeah. It's a big deal.
Great.
Yeah.
So the current setup, it's kind of two parts. The original part of the Bluebird is on the right, correct?
Oh, when you're walking in, you're walking to be on the left.
So that's the original Bluebird.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. And then when did it expand into what we know now?
That was Opie Taylor's with the new part. So when you walk in the main entrance now, there's a little ramp that you go up, and that used to be Opie Taylor's. So that would be just a couple years before I bought it. So probably started happening in late 1999 or so, 2000 that happened. And so it was great, but it really, doubled the bathrooms, expanded the stage, so the sight lines were much better. So those were modern conveniences that the Bluebird desperately needed at the time.
Yeah.
And the tricky thing for me was, how do you incorporate that room to feel like the rest of the Bluebird, which really took years of thinking about it. And so finally, it was kind of over COVID that, really put the big pictures up on the wall of past performers and put some stained glass chandeliers in, and then the archives of all the bands that have played over the last 50 years. Starting to do big posters of those and lining them up through the walls. And they kind of brought everything together, the new part and the old part.
The No Dishes podcast is brought to you by VisitBloomington.com. VisitBloomington.com is the best resource for restaurant and culinary information, special events, fun activities, places to stay, and more in our area. We share a similar mission here on the No Dishes podcast of highlighting local businesses and the people who make our community unique. We can't thank them enough for hopping on board. Check them out at visitbloomington.com to easily plan your next meal, visit, or night out on the town. So the old Bluebird, it would go back, but the current setup in the back, it was never that wide.
It was that wide.
It was.
Yeah.
So it was
in the
just
back. It was. The stage wasn't as big, and so we expanded the stage out, but the room size is the same.
Gotcha. Back. Okay, so it was really just that front part that was kind of added on.
Right, but you had a very narrow entrance coming into the front, which opened up in the back, which is cool.
Yeah.
Until everybody's got to leave at the same time, and then it's it's a problem.
I mean, even as it is now, it could get.
Yeah, but at least now you have two doors that are open, and there's some openings that go side by side, so it still can get crowded. But the movement is happening much more. You're not typically stuck anywhere.
Oh yeah, no, that I can imagine that would have been a nightmare back in the day.
Right.
Yeah, because I was always curious about that. That was one of the things I was excited to ask you about coming on here was how that happened. And
the next time you're in there, I'll show you. I mean, you can tell on the floor that the concrete part is the new part, and then anything else was the old part of the Bluebird.
Huh. That's interesting. It's fascinating. So can we go back to the beginning for you personally, before you were at the Peanut Barrel? And are you from Bloomington originally?
I'm from South Bend.
Oh, okay. I just went there for the first time this past Saturday.
What'd you think?
It was interesting.
You go to the Notre Dame game?
Yeah. I went to Notre Dame, Florida State. My buddies and I, one of my buddies is a Florida State fan. We spent $375 a ticket before the season because we thought it was going to be
State.
We pissed away money. Anyway, because we thought Florida State was going to be good, and this was going to be a top 5, top 10 matchup. And we made a thing where we're now, starting this year, we're going to every year go to a cool, college stadium. So we're like, let's start with Notre Dame, Florida State. We'll get these great tickets. Stadium's amazing though. It's awesome. It is,
man. The campus around it, the whole thing. I mean, there used to be a road that went right by the stadium there, which I think their traffic can't drive through there anymore. So now, and they expanded the area around the stadium. So a lot of people, you have to park and then kind of shuttle in a lot of it. Mm-hmm. So it's not the same dynamic when I was a kid growing up, because everybody just was around that stadium, and it was more don't know, the stadium was smaller. They expanded the stadium. They did a lot of stuff to Notre Dame.
It was so cool because it's like new but historic. Like bathrooms are nice. I was expecting like troughs. I was expecting
it was. It used to be when
I figured it would.
The old school one. Well, you can tell when you go in it. You go into like the ticket gate, and then there's a little buffer, and then you see a brick wall. So there's like the tunnel thing that goes around there. Mm-hmm. The brick wall was the old stadium.
Interesting.
And then the new concrete part on the outside, that's the new stadium.
Yeah, I went ahead and halftime because we didn't get in as early as we thought we would, and so at halftime I just did the full loop and looked over at touchdown Jesus. It was a really cool experience, and then obviously Notre Dame just throttled Florida State. But I was talking as we were driving into South Bend, I was talking shit. I was like, oh, this looks like West Lafayette, but then
part of it. Yeah.
Next thing you know, I'm like, oh, they got a Trader Joe's. I was like, we don't even have a Trader Joe's.
barely. And South Bend's a bigger town.
Yeah. But no, it was very just like anywhere. You had really nice portions, other parts that were a little more run down. But it was cool. We parked in some guy's parking lot, his yard at his house for $40. Tried to go to the linebacker in, but it was like $10 cover, and it looked like it was standing room only. Yeah. And we wanted to watch the IU Michigan game. Yeah. And then so we ended up going up to like Pub on the Edge or something like that. I don't even know. Yeah, but so grew up in South Bend.
And really, but. South Bend's, it was a great place to grow up, Yeah. But when you came to Bloomington, and I still remember going inside the Bird and like, oh my gosh, to see, Gordon Bonham or somebody at the time playing. And it was just like, that is fabulous. Just, it was such a great thing. And so when I started, you're in college, you're attending bar and your buddies played music. And so we started doing this stuff at the Peanut Barrel and it really just kind of took off, but it was really just kind of this organic thing. There was no plan, where this is going to lead to. Yeah.
So what brought you down to Bloomington in the first place?
We went to school.
Okay. So grew up in South Bend, went to IU, and then just stayed.
Yeah. And it just started happening. The music thing just started happening. It was my senior year or something. And I had buddies that played music and it just became popular and all right, this is great. Let's do this a little bit longer. And one thing led to another.
And here you are.
Here I am.
Wow.
On the podcast.
Yeah, this is it.
This is it. This is the pinnacle.
The crowning achievement. Yeah. Not owning an amazing venue with such a storied history. Yeah. What a simple but cool story where it's just like...
Yeah, there's lots of stuff that happened along the way and that thing, but that's the general trajectory.
The way you said that sounds like there's like 3 stories and they were missing. I want to know.
I always thought sometime, just to write like an archives book of like, stuff that's happened over the years and,
You got anything off the top of your head?
Like at a party or something, you meet people, you think, oh, what's what kind of music are you into? And they'll say, oh, I like blah, 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 and I'd think, oh, do you know so-and-so? And then you tell a story about the musician they may know and the experience I had with them. And it's not a reflection on the musician. This is just what happened that night at the Bluebird.
Right, yeah.
And my interaction with that act. And sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. And different or whatever. That's because I feel like in that role, just like you said, walking Tyler out, like you're getting a lot of interaction with some big names that people are standing outside for hours hoping to get a fraction. And you get a little glimpse of the person.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Tyler was great. Another one, we're sitting there at showtime and it's time to go on stage. The place is sold out. It's a Sunday night. The opening band's done. Going up to get Tyler in the bus, and we're gonna bring him in. And Tyler's reading a book, and he's like reading. He's finishing the chapter of the book. And we waited. The show waited 10 minutes until Tyler was done. Which I thought that's who he is.
That's great though. He's like, what difference is 10 minutes? I want to finish this chapter.
Yeah, and he was just going to his own thing. He's super relaxed and calm in his thing, and just got out there and did.
I love that. Have you had any other fascinating interactions, either positive or negative?
You hate to throw people under the bus or anything, the bad stuff that happened, but everybody's got good days and bad days.
Exactly. We all have our moments. Yeah.
We have all our moments. Yeah. But sometimes it's just cool to see the stardom element of people, like when the Marley Brothers came and you're seeing, oh, those guys are rock royalty and nobody's getting close to them. But very, very personable during the day. I sat across the table from Damian Marley and he was super cool. Coming into Showtime, it was like a championship boxer.
Really?
Nobody's touching that guy.
Interesting.
You think of like the protections of walking in. They had their own guys and like
Yeah, like they don't want the owner of the venue to even talk.
Nobody was looking at him.
Yeah.
I mean, that was that was the vibe going on.
Yeah, they're even telling you to stay back.
Yeah, but that's showtime, and that's different from before show and after show of what what's really going on.
Yeah, getting locked in.
Yeah, and Hayden's got great stories. Like a lot of times, because I have to got kids to get to school the next day.
Yeah, you're not staying until the end.
But he'll tell me like the next day, hey man, Zach Bryan came to the video saloon with us and hung out for an hour.
Yeah,
and stuff like that. And you're like, oh wow,
that's wild.
Yeah,
but
that's a lot of that stuff happens. Like they'll go somewhere potentially after the show and just hang out and have and the bands want that too. Of they just want to be normal people because they are normal people and they just happen to be musicians.
Yeah, and then just hope.
So, we're not necessarily it's not stardom thing. You're just a couple guys hanging out.
Well, yeah, especially if you're going with like the bartenders from the venue,
right?
Like, hey, where's the cool spot? Let's go hang out, shoot the shit, have some drinks. Yeah. And you guys will also help us probably not get hassled.
Right. Exactly. Like, there's definitely that element. Yeah. Nobody's taking their picture in that situation either.
Exactly. Right? Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. You know how to handle that. Right. Yeah. That's part of
so
the
our
game.
guys are very conscious of that. If the guys are out around town, that there's nobody.
Yeah. It's like we have the memory, and that's how we continue to get these memories. Is knowing how to not be like.
And the bands really appreciate that too. It's great.
Of course. Yeah. They just want to be treated like normal.
Right.
Sweet. Well, we've covered the bird. We've got a little bit of time left. I want to talk briefly about Taste, if you're cool with that.
Sure.
So you were one of the main people, along with Talisha and Ron Sandhouse, of putting on Taste of Bloomington for the last, was it 30 or 40 years?
Gosh, I don't know. A long time.
That was the most 1,000-yard stare. She's like, I don't know. I don't care. You're like, all I know is I'm done.
Man, it was great. It was. I often said the Taste was Bloomington's best day of everybody coming. At the time, everybody came down to Showers Plaza. They all, saw music, had food, had a beer on Showers Plaza. Great, wonderful day for Bloomington. Yeah.
Yeah, so you were one of the main people along, I mentioned Ron Sandhouse, Talisha
Kopic. Yeah.
Kopic, thank you.
Yeah, right.
I was trying to say Kopic.
Yeah, it's harder to say Talisha, actually.
No, Talisha, I was like, T-Dog.
Yeah. She's wonderful, man.
Oh, fantastic. Well, so I talked to her about, hey, because you guys did Taste of Bloomington 2019, pandemic happened. And then we're going to bring it back in 2022. I believe.
I thought that you were going to ask me that. And I was trying to think of when is the last time we did the Taste.
I think it was 2019.
Yeah. Or did we not do it? I'll have to go on your word for it. I don't remember if we didn't do it prior to the pandemic or the pandemic is what stopped it.
Well, pandemic. So you did the year before because we always sold ice cream and helped do the ice for a lot of the vendors, and we loved Taste. It was a great event for chocolate mousse. So we loved being involved in it. Yeah. And just as people in the community, people were like, "Oh, Taste of Bloomington! Like, when is it? Let's go!" Yeah, it's a great time, and all my friends that worked in restaurants love doing it. Mm-hmm. But it was 2019. Pandemic hits 2020, and I think it was 2022. You guys tried to bring it back, and then a few things fell apart. Kind of last minute to where it didn't happen. There we go, 2023. Thanks, Garrett. With beer distributors, all this fun stuff. But anyway, I reached out to Talisha. I was like, hey, we've organized Food Truck Friday successfully for 10 years now. We have experience as vendors. Are you guys doing anything with it? And she's like, we're done. We're like, she's like, we are
Talisha
good.
was done first.
Yeah. But then, so after I met with Talisha, I met with the three of you guys, and all of you were like, yes, we are, we had a great run. We love Taste, but we're ready to let it go. And so we're really excited to be bringing it back next year, 2025. Ran through the chocolate mousse. It historically had been a 501c3. So it was ran as a nonprofit. Until we have the time and resources to put together a new nonprofit, we'll probably just run it through chocolate mousse for just ease of it. Better business, better community. For over a century, the Greater Bloomington Chamber of Commerce has been a cornerstone of business growth and community development. They are dedicated to helping local businesses thrive. Their business is all about your business. Join the Chamber today. Call 812-336-6381 or visit chamberbloomington.org to learn more. The idea is going to be to do it on Kirkwood from Walnut to Indiana. But you and Talisha have been great resources as I've been trying to make my way through all this and just picking your guys' brain, and Adam Wason as well. What were some of your fondest memories of putting on Taste?
Oh gosh. Just it's again watching this thing kind of really take off. When we went into the north lot of the Showers Plaza, because the Taste used to just be on the main Showers Plaza, and then we went on to the north lot and we put a second stage up, and the idea was to spread it out. We've kind of felt like the Taste is getting too congested. People can't move around as easily as we'd like them to. And then to go up into the north lot and to really double the footprint of it. And so that brought on good things and bad things. We had who's going to be the food vendors up at the north lot, or as many people are going to go up there, and all that kind of stuff. And so in my job at the Taste, I did the entertainment and trying to gauge, this is how big of our footprint we have. These are kind of our costs. This is how many people we need to attend this thing to make this work.
Yeah.
So, we all kind of work together, but kind of my thing was like, all right, if we book this band and we charge this much, or these bands, I should say, because we had 10 bands going, that if we charge this is what we think, how many people are going to attend this thing. And then you're trying to project, all right, this is how much admissions we're going to get. This is what our drink sales will be. And does this make sense financially? Because the Taste was a really expensive thing to put on. And plus you had to make all the food vendors happy. They're going out there, and the margins for them were really tight.
Yeah.
So that was a challenge for them to staff it and to make money out there. At the same time, you're getting resistance of, hey, we want the prices to be cheaper. And Bianco's sold a steak sandwich for, I don't know what they sold it for.
$12, $13.
$13. Yeah. And really for them, that's probably what it needed to be out there at the Taste to make that worth their while. And so every restaurant had their own overhead problems of trying to do that. And it became really cumbersome for them to staff it, especially after COVID, when people really had staffing problems.
Of course.
That was a big problem for us.
Yeah. And then, you guys also, Talisha had mentioned 500 volunteers.
Yeah.
That's the number that always blew my mind. Yeah.
We had such a big footprint, but a lot of people, they were doing shifts. It wasn't like you're volunteering the whole time.
Right.
Usually it was a 2-hour shift you're volunteering for. So we had all the gates and the beer tickets and the beer tent and, the cleanup and the setup and all this stuff. It was just, but when you see it come to fruition, it was just a wonderful day for Bloomington to, it's one of the, I kind of, I was thinking about it for this interview. I was thinking it's kind of like the football team. Everybody's excited that IU's winning. Everybody's out at Memorial Stadium on Saturday for the game. And it really brings the community together. And the Taste was that during the middle of the summer, that everybody that was in Bloomington, the students weren't in session, but really most everybody in town went to the Taste because it was this huge diverse thing, and it was like this great event that brought the community together. And so when you're part of that and you see it happen, that's just a great thing.
Yeah, that's how I feel. The best feeling I ever get essentially is a busy food truck Friday. Yeah. And just walking around and just seeing
what you're doing.
Every walk of life,
yeah.
Just having some food, listening to music. And
it's important for a town to bring people together, and for whatever event you're doing, whether it be Food Truck Friday or the Taste, or like what Grain Falloon does, and
Pride Fest
and Talia, all the events she does.
Absolutely.
It's really good for our town when all the people come downtown for something. And that was the big thing with the Taste of, for me, I wanted to always keep it at Showers Plaza or downtown, because I wanted people to come to our downtown. And then afterwards, ideally, go, during the day, maybe you shop downtown. Afterwards, maybe you went out and had a beer downtown.
Yeah. So. Well, and that's, for a number of reasons, Showers doesn't really work as a site anymore.
Yeah. But Kirkwood does, and that's great. That's the same thing.
Yeah. Well, and that's, downtown, we talked about it in our initial meetings, but you mentioned, Grand Falloon and Pride Fest and all these, when the events happen on Kirkwood, it's this energy that is hard to match, because we're vending down there and I'm like, this is cool. Yeah. This is awesome. You got Flaming Lips playing in the middle of Kirkwood.
That's great. Yeah.
Or just like thousands of people buying insane amount of lemon shake-ups at Pride Fest. But just being the lit up Buskirk sign, the sample gates. It's like, and then for a Taste of Bloomington, where else would be better than just, that's the heart of it, is Kirkwood.
Right. So we used to do a thing called Hoosier Fest down there, which I don't know. Did you ever hear that?
I've heard of it.
So that's when one of the first things, I can't remember if I did that before the Taste. It was kind of at the same time. And, but we did big shows on Kirkwood, 3 years of it, oh my gosh, there's I don't even know how many people, 10,000
Wow,
plus
yeah.
down Kirkwood. And it was great. Once again, well, we did that right when school started up. So it was like the first Saturday after Labor Day or something.
Really?
And it was wild. Man. It was,
I would, Wason even floated it to me. He was like, hey, you could do it when the students are in session. But the idea why that's hard is because restaurants don't have enough staff. Once the students are here, they're busy at their locations.
Yeah, and do they have enough staff in the summertime too? You'll just figure it out. You'll after your first year, you'll go, well, that worked, this didn't work, and
right.
And,
so for Hoosier Fest, where would you put this? Where'd you have the stage?
We did the stage at Kirkwood and Grant, facing the sample gates.
Okay.
So from Grant Street to the sample gates, it was, and shoulder to shoulder to Dunn. I would say from Dunn to Grant.
That's so cool.
Just, people on top of the rooftops. It was scary. It was
I love
just
it.
Wild.
Yeah,
really
but
wild.
But that's back in the 90s.
When did we?
Early 2000s, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a different time, so it's like I'd love to recreate that.
It's not different. It's would I be
allowed to recreate?
Right.
That?
Well, we have a great mayor, and you've got great guys like Adam, and I think you just say this is what you want to do, and what do they think?
Yeah.
And, But I think we're fortunate to have people running our city that have shared vision, I think, of wanting to bring people downtown.
Well, yeah, seeing the value in cool community events. Yeah. Sweet. Well, I'm really excited. I'm very fortunate and thankful for all the work that you guys have done over the years to put on such a cool event, and I'm going to make sure to not let you down.
Yours will be different what we did. It's a different concept. It's a different location. It's you'll find your own path,
right?
And then you'll go. Like I said, it'll take it from this year, and it'll morph into things over time. The taste was much, when we first started it to where we ended, or at least in my tenure, it was unrecognizable that what we did over time. But
yeah, it's start small, scale it up.
If you want to do that, bigger isn't always better.
No, exactly. Yeah.
So,
well, and even though we're looking at doing Kirkwood and a big event, it's not necessary. It's going to be smaller in some aspects as far as volunteers. You'd
have to be
not being a ticketed event.
Right.
So we'll see. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Our big thing was when we closed the perimeter, made a thing. The biggest thing was getting admissions to pay for it. Because we had such, we had a lot of stuff going on. But.
Yeah, that's going to be the hardest thing for us to figure out is funding the event without it being a ticketed event.
Right.
That's the one that's where we're going to write at.
The logic says that doesn't add up very well. But maybe it does. I don't know.
We'll see. Vendor fees, corporate sponsorships, and percentage of alcohol sales.
Yeah,
that's gonna be the three ways to cover all the expenses.
Yeah,
and we'll see if those add up. hopefully I don't kill the chocolate mousse by trying to.
No, you won't. Not the first year. Just But it's just the journey of going through it.
The Bloomington Town Planner is a community calendar owned and published by local residents John and Sharon Martin. Mailed out to Bloomington homes in December of each year, it features school schedules and community events. And don't forget the coupons at the bottom of the calendar. They'll save you money and help you decide on the next restaurant or retailer to check out here in the Bloomington area. Town Planner also has an online calendar which can be found at townplanner.com. Make sure to sign up for their weekly e-newsletter so you can stay on top of all the fun events going on around town. Oh yeah, I love it. My biggest thing, I love event planning. I really do love doing it for Chocolate Mousse Catering. I love it when I DJ a wedding. I love it when, for Food Truck Friday, event planning is fun. And there's so many people that have reached out that have offered to help me that are super talented. Yeah. So I'm really excited to get this team put together and execute it. And then, again, just thankful to still have you guys there as resources.
Yeah. And one thing I remember at the Taste that I intentionally tried to do, because it may rain. Later in the summer, you don't have as much chance. We did it middle of June, so the chance of rain was a little bit higher then. But intentionally we went from 3 o'clock to 10 or 11. I can't remember what time we stopped. It was either 10 or 11. Anyhow, but it was 7-8 hour span of that this thing is going on. But I was trying to intentionally with music on it was trying to get something during early in the afternoon that drew people down there. And so if it did rain at 5 o'clock or something, it didn't mess up the whole thing. If you had 2 hours of rain, that we could still pull this thing off because we had people early and we had them late, and we weren't counting on everything to happen in this little short span.
Yeah, it's not a total wash. And
there was times where we thought it was, but that helped. It just having the longevity of it. Seldom does it rain 8 hours straight.
Right. Knock on wood.
Yeah, knock on wood.
But yeah, I'm thinking the same time frame for sure. So when you have people coming in, or when you're just dining out, last part we always do with our guests is where you like to eat out.
Where do I like to? I mean, my two favorite Uptown Cafes. Michael's
Uptown. It's a gold standard.
Yeah, and Michael, what a guy, man! He's great, and Galen's going to do great.
Oh, absolutely.
So I've always been. It's funny, like when I first started going to the Uptown. First off, the Uptown started next door to the Bluebird, where Rockets is. So there's that. And that's before it predates me. But when I first started working at the Bluebird, my old boss, Dennis Burris, he insisted that the meetings take place at the Uptown Cafe. Like, he lived up in Indy, and we would have the meetings. And so that, I don't know if I went much prior to that or didn't understand the coolness of the Uptown. But so then you got to meet Michael, and, the meetings were at the Uptown. And so you just, some were good, some were bad because of whatever happened that last month. But it was just, I don't know, you just kind of got the whole feel of the connectivity between like the Bird and the Uptown. And so I've always liked that.
Do you ever go to order at Uptown?
What do I?
Go to order?
Go to order?
Yeah. Or like, what's like, oh man, I'm going to Uptown.
Oh, what's my go-to thing? It's usually the fish. If Michael's going to have
whatever fish special.
Whatever fish I go to. And I mean, and if he doesn't, the crab cake on the weekends can't miss. And then breakfast. And I'll, depending on what time of year it is, I'll change up a little bit. But the biscuits and gravy with a couple eggs over top.
This is the stuff we want. This is the info.
And the thing at the Uptown, it's never bad. It's never ever bad.
That's their calling card. Is consistency.
Yeah. And then I live on the east side, so C3. I go there a lot, and the fish prep at C3 is outstanding. They always, no matter what fish they have, he always nails it.
Yeah, I've said for a long time on here and just in person, out in public, that if you want, because people talk like, oh, I miss No Coast. And I'm like, yeah, I love No Coast. It's great. But like the best fish is whatever fish C3 is doing.
Outstanding. It's amazing how and it's all about, I'm sure the fish he gets isn't probably much different than the actual fish that somebody else gets. But whatever he does to prep it, and I'm not a food, I've never cooked at a restaurant. I know nothing about it other than a consumer. Yeah. But I just think, man, that guy really does a great job prepping fish.
Yeah, no, it's with the execution on it. It's always cooked perfectly, good flavors going on.
And sometimes if I'm traveling somewhere and I'm at some, you're at some high-end restaurant somewhere else, and you think, is that really better than C3 or the Uptown? I'm often say, no, it's not. Because those guys nail it and they're in town. It's great.
Yeah, people take for granted a lot of what we have here in town. But every now and then I'll travel and have something where like, ooh, I wish we had something like this in town. But a lot of the times it is like,
and I think we will get there too. Of like I said, with the highway open, I think downtown certainly has room to expand on that.
Oh, for sure.
Going, so.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've got a lot of bases covered. We got a lot of things. There's a lot of places that don't have a Burmese restaurant.
Right.
We've got a lot of bases covered. A lot of people don't. But I'd still, recently when we were up in South Bend and Culver, we went and I had like a really good just lamb shank entree. Right. And I was like, man, there's nowhere in town I can get a good lamb shank entree. Yeah. But it was excellent. Yeah. But that was, or like, I really would love a good Jamaican grill. That's something that I feel like we need. People always talk about the need for a German restaurant in Bloomington.
Yeah, that's true too.
Or apparently there used to be an Ethiopian one, and they would love to have an Ethiopian back. I'm not familiar with Ethiopian cuisine, but
I will have one Jamaican food story for you really quick.
Oh yeah, fantastic.
So Citizen Cope was playing the Bluebird. Okay?
Oh, nice. Okay.
And so typically the bands, they'll have all their stuff in the trailer, and they'll unload the trailer, and they'll put all that in the Bluebird, and then they'll have, they'll want a buyout for meals, and then they'll go out to dinner. But Citizen Cope had a chef with him that he brought. I don't know where he's from, LA or something. And so he set up his little kitchen inside the trailer where all the band gear was after they loaded it out of the, for the show. And so he set up a kitchen in there, and then he went to Blooming Foods, whatever, and got all the food and prepped it. And I don't know, the doors are open. It's maybe an hour and a half before showtime. And he comes up to me. He's like, hey man, I've got 3 extra plates of food. Would you like one of them? I'm like, absolutely. Yeah. And then I said, here's a couple guys on staff that worked really hard, but they can have the other 2. And it was jerk chicken. And Oh my gosh, it was unbelievable how good of food it was. And so I tell that story to other bands. I'm like, hey, if you're gonna, bring an extra guy on the road, if you can pay for a chef like that, to eat that healthy and that good on the road is of great value.
Yeah, so, I'm sure.
But usually you'll see that on the big touring, the bands that are playing amphitheaters. But to see it on a club level, to bring a chef and actually set it up outside the Bluebird was a really cool thing, and it was just outstanding food.
Yeah, well, to be where like, okay, get the band equipment out so I can set up a.
That's what he did.
Kitchen.
Yeah. So and it was an empty trailer, and he's like, "Oh, I'll use it as a kitchen."
I love it. Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah. What do they do the theme song to House? Or am I thinking of something else? Anyway, anywhere you'd like to give some flowers to in town that we haven't touched on? Food wise, I know.
I need not to knock it. I just have 2 little kids, and so I'm seldom am I able to sit down and have the meal go out as much as you want.
Do the kids have favorites?
They like the country club, grilled cheese, and rice out there. That's another place that does great food. For what it is.
What Nuremberger out there running the kitchen?
Is that who does it?
Yeah. He was when I started at the Chocolate Moose. I worked at the Country Club for a few months.
Yeah,
and
they got a great staff out there too.
Yeah,
just really kind, and we enjoy it.
Yeah, it's an interesting little spot that just like it's because it's a club.
Right.
But it's like it's really not like as exclusive as people might think.
Right.
As far as like it's much more approachable.
Oh yeah. I don't even golf. I just
you can do just food only membership stuff like that.
But my littlest, he was so hooked on the grilled cheese and I was like, I had to finally, dude, what kind of bread you put on this thing? Because what I'm making at home is he's not having it.
Yeah. So, you're making me look bad.
It was a problem. Yeah.
Did they tell you the secret sauce?
Well, I got it close enough. I think that I got it.
That's good.
So,
You're not having grilled cheese tantrums at home anymore.
Right. Well, it's still minimized.
Kubi, thanks so much, man.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you. Always a good time hanging out, and I'll be seeing you around soon.
All right, thanks, man.
Yeah, cheers, buddy. There you go. You can't laugh, Carrot. All right, here we go. There you go, little fella. Oh, what another great episode. Thanks so much to Season 7 presenting sponsor, Visit Bloomington. Check them out, visitbloomington.com. As always, keep those hands dry. This episode of the No Dishes Podcast was recorded, edited, and produced by Garrett Portinga of Green Hat Media in beautiful downtown Bloomington, Indiana.
No Dishes Media.
No Dishes Media.